The character of Batman will forever be timeless. Since his creation in 1939, the countless adventures Batman has undertaken has captivated fans for nearly a century. While Batman is known as the world's greatest detective, perhaps his greatest character trait is his moral compass, strictly adhering to the one rule he will never break. That being, Batman does not kill. In a world of gods and monsters, Batman being nothing more than a man stuck in the middle of it all, you'd think he wouldn't follow such a debilitating rule, because it's not like all of his fellow heroes follow the same doctrine. Batman's primary reason for not killing stems from his personal code of ethics and trauma. Having witnessed the murder of his parents as a child, Bruce Wayne is driven by a desire to prevent others from experiencing the same pain. He believes that killing would make him no better than the criminals he fights against, and could lead him down a dark, irreversible path. Not only that, but Batman sees himself as a symbol of justice, not vengeance. If he were to kill, he fears he would lose control, and that his war on crime would become personal rather than principled. The fact that Batman does not kill is what makes him so interesting. When pushed into scenarios where he is all but forced to kill, he will always find another way, because at the end of the day, he's Batman. But what if he were to break? What if he was a failure? What if everything in his life fell apart in an instant? Well, then you have Jason Todd. But before we get into the video, if you're like me, then you've definitely struggled with getting a good night's rest or even a refreshing nap. That's why I'm excited to share how today's sponsor, Manta Sleep, has completely transformed my sleep routine. I tend to sleep very, very hot, so I picked up the Manta Cool Mask. And when I say it genuinely helped me get to sleep, that is an understatement. I haven't fallen asleep this fast in months. Looking at the mask, the first thing you'll notice is just how adjustable it is. You can easily customize the fitting to your liking, ensuring a perfect, comfortable experience every time. The materials feel incredibly premium and soft against your skin, which make a huge difference when you're trying to unwind. Plus, the design blocks out light completely, helping you drift off effortlessly. And what's even better is that this mask isn't just for nighttime. It's perfect for those midday naps too. If you're ready to elevate your sleep game, check out Manta Sleep. Head over to mantasleep.com and use my code SHANE10 at checkout for 10% off your order. That's SHAYNE 10 at checkout. Don't miss out on this chance to enhance your sleep. And once again, thank you to Manta for sponsoring this video. Created in 1983 by writer Jerry Conway and artist Don Newton, Jason Todd first appeared as the second Robin in Batman number 357. Born to Willis and Catherine Todd, Jason's early life was marked by hardship. His mother, originally from a very wealthy family, fell into addiction, while his father was a career criminal. As Jason's father cycled in and out of prison, his mother's struggles with drugs eventually led to her tragic overdose. Orphaned and alone, Jason used the street smarts and skills he picked up from his father to survive. His life took a dramatic turn when he attempted to steal the tires off the Batmobile. Impressed by Jason's audacity and resourcefulness, Batman intervened, ultimately adopting him. Bruce Wayne began training Jason as his new Robin, giving him a chance at redemption and a new path forward. Unlike Dick Grayson, the original Robin, who was known for his disciplined approach and strong moral compass, Jason was characterized by his more aggressive and impulsive nature. Jason's introduction as Robin marked a significant shift in the dynamic between Batman and his partner, reflecting a more turbulent and rebellious side to the role. Jason's tenure as Robin was marked by his ongoing struggle with his own anger and sense of inadequacy, especially in comparison to his predecessor. Fan reception of Jason Todd was mixed. While some readers were intrigued by his edgier, more troubled persona, others found his brashness and volatile nature less endearing compared to Grayson's more polished character. The controversy reached its peak in 1988 with the story A Death in the Family. In this arc, it was revealed that Jason's mother was actually alive and that the woman he thought was his mother wasn't. His birth mother was living somewhere in the Middle East, so Jason and Batman tracked her down, but during this journey, Jason was cornered by the Joker and brutally beaten with a crowbar. Joker then left Jason and his mother trapped in a warehouse with a bomb. Due to the mixed fan reception, editor Dennis O'Neil decided to let readers determine Jason's fate. On September 15, 1988, fans had the chance to vote via phone or mail whether Jason should live or die. Out of 10,614 votes, 5,343 were for death and 5,271 were for life, resulting in a narrow 72-vote margin. The decision was made, and Jason, along with his mother, perished in the explosion. Jason's death drastically changed Batman forever. This single moment in comic book history had nearly as much impact as Uncle Ben's death in Spider-Man. However, in 2005, things began to change. Talia al Ghul would recover Jason's body and immerse it in the Lazarus Pit, resurrecting Jason Todd. After Jason was revived and restored to health by Talia, he discovered that Batman had not avenged his death by killing the Joker. Instead, Joker was merely returned to Arkham Asylum, as was his custom. The effects of the Lazarus Pit on Jason's mind caused him to become increasingly unstable. Fueled by anger and betrayal, Jason sought revenge, not only against the Joker, but also against Batman for failing to take justice into his own hands. Talia trained him in the ways of the assassin, and upon returning to Gotham City, Jason adopted the alias Red Hood, a name previously used by the Joker. From here, Jason Todd enters a rather awkward state. Despite the compelling groundwork laid in his return as Red Hood, DC struggled to find a place for him. Instead of embracing him as a unique, standalone figure, Jason often finds himself bouncing between teams. Whether it's working alongside other vigilantes or being placed in an ensemble cast, his true potential gets buried beneath rather generic team dynamics. While some of these team-ups have been okay, they fail to capture the essence of Red Hood as a distinct character. His most powerful moments are those that focus on his personal struggles with trauma and identity. But when he's shoehorned into a group setting, the complexities of his character is often sidelined in favor of spectacle or broader team dynamics. Not only this, but Jason is in a constant state of fluctuation. He goes from hero to anti-hero to villain, leaving his character without a clear direction. Jason Todd's overall story is marked by unique elements that haven't been fully explored. What makes him significant isn't his fighting skills, intellect, or even his distinctive look. Instead, it's his complex personality that is defined by more flaws than strengths. He's brash, impulsive, and often reckless, with a streak of arrogance. In fact, the most compelling aspect of Jason Todd's character is Batman's reaction to him. Despite everything, Batman doesn't harbor hatred toward Jason. Instead, he displays a deep sense of disappointment, which can often feel more piercing than outright animosity. Jason is acutely aware of his position within the Bat family. The second Robin, the second son, the second heir. He understands that he will never measure up to Dick Grayson, the original Robin, nor will he fulfill Bruce Wayne's expectations. He recognizes that he cannot compete with Tim Drake, who stands out as a brilliant detective, nearly on par with Batman himself, or Damian Wayne, who is arguably the best fighter, who will potentially rival Batman's skills one day. The only first Jason will ever hold is being the first Robin who died. At first glance, Red Hood might seem like DC's answer to the Punisher, both being characters who operate outside the law, wield guns, and have a propensity for violence. However, their motivations and philosophies are fundamentally different, setting them apart in significant ways. As the Punisher, Frank Castle is driven by a singular obsessive goal: to punish those responsible for his family's death, by waging an unrelenting war on crime. His worldview is rigid, defined by an unwavering belief that killing criminals is the only way to achieve justice. He operates as a lone soldier on a battlefield of criminals, with little interest in moral gray areas or redemption. Red Hood, on the other hand, represents a more complex character, one who exists in the shadows of moral ambiguity. Unlike Frank Castle, Jason Todd's actions are shaped by deep personal trauma and betrayal, particularly his sense of abandonment by Batman. He doesn't just want to punish, he wants to challenge Batman's philosophy and prove that Bruce's no-kill rule is naive and flawed. Jason's story is one of identity and conflict. He is caught between his desires to honor Batman's legacy and his impulse to forge his own darker path. While the Punisher embraces his role as an unrepentant killer, Red Hood constantly wrestles with his own morality, sometimes killing and other times trying to resist it. This inner turmoil makes Red Hood less of a cold-blooded executioner and more of a tragic figure, someone who has been hurt by the very ideals he once believed in, but still yearns for redemption. Unfortunately, despite all these incredibly unique and enthralling character qualities, the portrayal of Red Hood over the years has been somewhat disappointing. For every compelling story to feature him, there seems to be several subpar or lackluster ones to follow. In fact, Red Hood storylines typically focus on spectacle rather than character. But based on everything we've discussed so far, everything the character has gone through, he should be a very cerebral character. A character who has a fractured mind due to all the trauma he's experienced. A character like Marvel's Moon Knight comes to mind as an ideal comparison. Moon Knight, much like Red Hood, is a figure defined by a psychological complexity and struggles with trauma. Mark Spector, the man behind the mask of Moon Knight, deals with dissociative identity disorder and a constant battle between his various persona. These persona, ranging from the vengeful Moon Knight to the suave millionaire Stephen Grant, reflect the fractured state of Mark's psyche as a result of his violent past and near-death experiences. His stories are often deeply introspective, dealing with themes of mental illness, self-identity, and the cost of his vigilante lifestyle. Red Hood could easily follow a similar narrative path. Rather than focusing solely on his prowess in battle or the spectacle of his encounters with Batman, the stories could dive into the inner workings of Jason Todd's mind. exploring the scars left by his brutal death at the hands of the Joker, his resurrection in the Lazarus Pit, and his ongoing conflict between his admiration for Batman and his bitterness towards him. Like Moon Knight, Jason's struggle with morality, identity, and a fractured sense of self could be brought to the forefront, creating far more compelling and personal stories. Red Hood's inner demons and the torment of his past should be treated as a central element to his narrative, not sidelined for flashy action sequences. Just as Moon Knight is driven by a deeply personal battle within, Red Hood's story could be enriched by focusing on the mental and emotional toll of his experiences. This would elevate him beyond a gun-toting antihero to a character with real depth, a tortured soul who is as much at war with himself as he is with the criminals of Gotham. Imagine this scenario. A month after the events of Under the Red Hood and his crushing defeat by Batman, Jason Todd is left grappling with the aftermath of his failed quest for vengeance. The psychological impact of being thwarted by Batman, whom he had long viewed as a father figure, has left Jason shattered and isolated. He returned from the dead with a singular purpose: to punish the Joker for his death and force Batman to break his no-kill rule. Yet standing at the precipice of that moment, Jason hesitated. He had the Joker within his grasp, but he couldn't pull the trigger. Why? Was it to prove something? But to whom? Batman or himself? These moral complexities churn in Jason's fractured mind, eroding his sense of identity. He begins to question everything. Was his quest for vengeance even about the Joker? Or was it a twisted attempt to get Batman's attention, to force his father figure to truly see him? And if it wasn't revenge, then what drives him now? Jason is caught in a brutal mental storm, constantly questioning whether his actions are driven by justice or the desire to prove his worth to the very man who let him down. He doesn't know who he is anymore. A weapon without a purpose, a ghost caught between the man he was and the killer he fears he's becoming. Unable to cope with these feelings, Jason decides that the only way to find clarity is to leave Gotham altogether. He needs to step away from the shadows of Batman and the Joker to find out who he truly is without their influence. Jason sets out on a journey of self-discovery, one that takes him across the world, from crime-infested streets of other cities to far-flung locations where he can challenge himself physically, mentally, and spiritually. Along the way, he confronts the moral ambiguities that have plagued him for so long, grappling with what it means to be a killer, a vigilante, and a man seeking redemption. In this search for identity, Jason must face hard truths about himself, about what drives him and what kind of man he ultimately wants to be. Only then can he find redemption, or fall deeper into the void. His path may lead him to darker places, but it may also offer a chance for renewal, for Jason to forge his own identity separate from Batman's legacy. Ultimately, Red Hood's stories should focus more on his character development rather than grandiose spectacle. There are far richer narratives to explore about Jason Todd coming to terms with his identity and his place in the world rather than fighting aliens in space. The focus should be small, original stories, beginning with Jason's mind, then moving to his actions, and finally, his future. Mind, actions, future. That is the key to creating a perfect Red Hood story.